grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Good morning to everyone. It's good to have you here this morning. We have visitors here with us. Good to have you all here as well. Thank you for coming. Handouts that you have a little bit more information on them. These are an outline. If you have got on the Life of Christ website, you can have access to all these things. But they do give an outline, some other study materials, and then the questions that we typically use. But this morning I was wanting to include the outline that you can follow along, and it has some of the questions and sort of an open book thing, has answers too. So on the very, very back page, you'll find the questions, and then we're going to be looking through, and you can fill out those answers if you like as we go through our lesson. So as we've gone through our study for the last several weeks, sort of falls into a pattern as far as what we're doing, looking at the life of Christ and His ministry and His life itself in terms of trying to get a perspective of it, like if we were there, sort of what writers and others believe that may have been the culture and the things that took place, not just the word that we have in the New Testament, but also things that were going on at the time. And so here we have Jesus in Galilee, and this is going to be what's called the third tour. It seems like that when we go back and we look at our study, that there's different times he'll go through certain areas of Galilee, and this could be around the Sea of Galilee as well, not just the province of Galilee. But he'll go through certain towns, there'll be certain things that he'll do, and then he comes back and he decides to do another tour, do it again. Well, now he's on his third time, and the differences, I've sort of made some notes that we studied in Matthew 4:23 through 25, when we look at that first time that he starts going through and preaching in Galilee. And if somebody has that, would like to turn to it, Matthew 4:23 through 25, and read those verses for us. He only had a few disciples. He had those few disciples that he had acquired from John Baptizer as they would go around the countryside there, and they would start teaching and start doing certain things. The first miracle that Jesus performed was in Cana of Galilee, turning the water into wine, and others that he would do. But as he would go through these different tours, that would increase the amount of teaching that he did, the amount of healing and the miracles that he did. So let's start off Matthew 4:23 through 25. If somebody has those verses and would be willing to read those for us, go right ahead. I think, Richard, you have those for us? You have those verses? Thank you.
And he went throughout all Galilee, teaching.
All right. So he started off doing what he was supposed to be doing. His mission was to first go to the Jews, and he'll continue that, and we'll especially see that in our study today. Larry, why don't we turn the volume down just a little bit on this mic? It's starting to feedback a little. Thank you. And as he goes through and does these things, he gets attention, especially from the Jewish leaders. And he ends this first tour with the Sermon on the Mount, and we spent some time on that, how the crowds were coming to him. He was getting attention among the crowds in other places, as well as his healing. Now, the second time that he makes this journey, let's look at Luke 8, verses 1 through 3. Luke chapter 8, verses 1 through 3. I want to see if I can tell who gets to it first. Julie's got it, yes? All right, Go ahead. All right. So now we see that not only does he had the few disciples before, now he has the 12. His 12 disciples. And he had a lot of others, disciples that would travel with him, and it's mentioned in Luke's account of those women that would also take care of lots of things, the meals and various things for that large group. And so one of the things that we see in his second tour was that he started teaching in parables a lot. That's where we will find a lot of the parables that we're so familiar with. But at the last of that tour that we just ended our study the last couple of weeks, he went back to his own hometown of Nazareth. What do we remember happened there? He would go to the synagogue and he would read that passage from Isaiah that spoke of this prophet that was coming, Messiah. And after he read that, and they were amazed at his teaching and his speaking of it, what happened right after that? Yes, he was rejected. How can a person from his own hometown here, a hometown person, this just can't be. That's just not what it's supposed to be. They were still looking for that royal lineage. They were looking for someone like David to come in, and just sweep them off their feet and take care of everything that was going wrong with them as far as the oppression from the Romans, various things. And this just couldn't be that Messiah. It's just not what we've got pictured in our head. And they even tried to kill him. They even took him to the brow of the city. It was a ridge that Nazareth was on, and they were going to throw him down the side of the hill. So rejected badly. But when we look to our third time that he's going now, we're going to read that. Matthew has a lengthy account. Matthew was a writer that, in his accounts, he put a lot of detail in some of the things that he did. Mark and Luke's accounts are very short, very to the point of what was about to happen, what he was going to do, what his purpose was, and the 12 that he would send out. But Matthew goes through a lot of detail. We're going to read that and get a feel for everything that he said for the rest of our discussion this morning. So if you have your Bibles and want to follow along, we're going to start off in Matthew chapter 9, verses 35. Matthew chapter 9, verses 35. And on your handout sheet, it gives you under Introduction A 3 passages that we're going to be looking at. Jesus was going through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. All right, so let's start there. What people was he going to find in the synagogues? He would find the Jews. He's specifically going to state that. Seeing the people, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited, like sheep without vision. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." When we look at the idea of a sheep and the shepherd, what does a shepherd do for his sheep? Takes care of them. How? For nutrition. Sheep, I guess, is, they're those that sort of got the tunnel vision. What they only see is what's in front of them. And so the shepherd needs to lead them to those areas where there's grass for them to graze on. brought out the idea of protection, watching over flock is what a shepherd does as well. And so we see those types of things. We have the guidance, we have the nourishment, we have the protection that has to be given to those sheep. And Jesus is making the analogy here, just like that. What he looks out and sees, he sees these sheep, these children of Israel, and it's like they don't have a shepherd. They're just wandering, going without any sort of sight of looking at what the Scriptures have taught them, of what's right in front of them. He stands right in front of them and speaks and performs the miracles that he's performing, and yet they cannot see. Eyes they have, but they cannot see. Ears they have, but they cannot hear. And so in that, he's addressing that. He said, we look out and we see the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And then when we look at chapter 10, beginning in verse 1, Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: first Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, and James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out after instructing them, do not go in the way of the Gentiles, and do not enter any city of the Samaritans. He's focusing in on what he wants his disciples to do on this particular mission. He's commissioned them to do these things. But rather, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you received, freely give. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts, or a bag for your journey, or even 2 coats, some translation use tunics, or sandals or a staff. Worker is worthy of his food. In whatever city or village you enter, inquire who is worthy in it. Stay at his house until you get to that city. As you enter the house, give in your greeting. The house is worthy, give it your blessing and peace. But if it is not worthy, take back your blessing and peace. Whoever does not receive you nor heed your words, as you go out of that house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. Truly I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, the day of judgment, than for that city. Okay, quickly, what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? What do we know? They were utterly destroyed. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. But beware of men, for they will hand you over to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues, and you will even be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. But when they hand you over, do not worry about how or what you are to say, for it will be given you in that hour what you are to say. For it is not you who speak, but it is the Spirit of your Father who speaks in you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but it is the one who has endured to the end who will be saved. But whenever they persecute you in one city, flee to the next. For truly I say to you, you will not finish going through the cities of Israel until the Son of Man comes. The disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master. And it is enough for the disciple that he become like his teacher, and the slave like his master. They have called the head of the house Beelzebul. How much more will they malign the members of his household? This word right here has been used just recently They were saying that Jesus was casting out demons by what? By the name of Beelzebub. Verse 26, therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. What I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light, that you hear whispered in your ear, proclaim on the housetops. And you can continue reading that as you continue to study perhaps this week. But we sort of get the idea. Matthew is really going into a lot of detail. And me, if I were standing there, if I was in that place, 12 disciples, Jesus was telling us, what he wants to do. Sure, okay, we're supposed to go out, we're supposed to go to the children of Israel, we're supposed to go to the Jews and all of these Galilean towns, perhaps go to the synagogues, when they're all meeting there. We're supposed to not take anything extra. We're not supposed to take just one tunic and one pair of sandals and a staff, one of the other gospel accounts includes. We're not supposed to take any type of money or anything like that. We're going to this town, we're preaching, and we're going to rely on someone say, hey, would you come to our house and stay with us? We'd like to hear more about this. They would be invited into someone's house to be able to stay until they finished the work that they were supposed to do in that city. Sometimes, perhaps, they're going to be accepted by those in that house, and it seems like that there are going to be times where they are going to be rejected after they get into a little more detail. And so after they've done the work that they're supposed to do, as they leave the city, what are they supposed to do as a sign? If everything's good, they go. Blessings to the place where they stay in the city, but if not, shake the dust off and move on to the next place. Then Jesus starts giving a little more detail in Matthew's account about, all right, look at yourselves as sheep in a sense, and everybody that's out there in the world is wolves and are after you. You got to learn how to be as shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of men. I'll hand you over, you're going to be scourged even in the synagogues. And he goes through all these things. What do you think was going through the mind of the disciples about this time? Guess what? Everything was going all right here, but Jesus, what are you asking us to do now? You're sending us out there, and it sounds like things are not going to be good. What the commentators believe is that these words that Matthew is reporting, and we know that as we go down and we even see that we'll not finish going through the cities of Israel until the Son of Man comes, that's going to be a time that's where? Way out, sometime that we're still waiting. And so this is going to be giving them insight into general idea of things that will take place in the Christian dispensation. And them not understanding that completely until the Spirit comes to them. And he goes on to say that you'll be going up against things, you'll be going against rulers and different ones, but the Spirit is going to give you those words that you speak. We see that in the epistles, don't we? As we go through Acts and we see some of the things that's taking place, how they're going up against rulers and various ones, they're thrown into prison, they're persecuted, they're stoned, flogged, all these different things, and the Spirit is with them. They receive words to say through the Spirit. That's how we have writings that we have. So going through a lot there. And so they go out into this area, they're split up. Why do we think that Jesus, at this particular time, decided to do this, to split up everything? They think that they divided them up into two. Cover more area. Yes. We can see that there's sort of some immediacy here. What we're going to look at in a sense, I want us to take a look at Luke 9, verses 7 through. Let's read that passage. Luke 9, 7 through. Now, this is Luke's account. Jesus sending out the 12, gives them just a sort of a very concise idea of what they're going to be doing. So they set out, in verse 6, and went from village to village, preaching the gospel and healing people everywhere. That's what Jesus wanted them to do. Now Herod, Tetrarch, he was Tetrarch of Galilee, heard about all that was going on. And he was perplexed, because some were saying that John had been raised from the dead. Which John are we talking about? John the Baptizer. Herod, this is the one through some conniving going on there between his wife and daughter had to behead John. And so others that Elijah had appeared. Still others that one of the prophets of long ago had come back to life. Now, who are they saying these things? Still haven't figured this out. Many have believed John the Baptizer, he's back alive now. But Herod said, well, I'm the one that beheaded him. I'm the one that had him, that killed him. Some would say that Elijah, and this was interesting because they said some of the same things about John. Jesus said the same thing as well about John. But Herod said, I beheaded John. Can't be coming back. Who then is this I hear such things of? Try to see him. So guess who's trying to keep an eye on Jesus now? Herod. It's going to be in the background constantly. We have the Jewish leaders who were always after Jesus, following him around, trying to discredit him, trying to say that he casts out demons by the power of demons, Beelzebub. And then here we have Herod now, Roman side of the issue, looking, trying to see Jesus, wanting to find more out about Jesus. He will meet Jesus. And we see these things happening as well. So Jesus perhaps is feeling that time. We've got to really kick things into gear now. We're going through Galilee not once, not twice, but now we're going through 3 times. And now we're going to cover more ground because disciples, I'm going to divide you up into 2s, into 6 teams, and you're going to go out village to village, preach the gospel. I'm going to give you power to heal, and the Spirit's going to be upon you so that you will know what to say. And Jesus and his others would go and do the same. So we have 7 teams going out in the area of Judea. And it seems like, or not Judea, Galilee. It seems like that with what Jesus is saying, it's not going to be a long, extended time. But they think maybe they could cover all of that ground in a period of some weeks. Not taking anything with them except, remember, one gospel account, a staff, 1 tunic, a pair of sandals. And power, Spirit. The training. What would these same 12 disciples be? They would receive the Great Commission. This has been called, what Jesus is doing here, the intermediate commission. It was limited, the limited commission. It was only limited to the Jews. They were only supposed to go to the Jews. Don't go the way of the Samaritans. Don't go the way of the Gentiles. Last effort is to go to the Jews. It's not going to be Jesus. It's going to be so they're going to see the power of God through you, disciples. These would be the same disciples that would be there on the day of Pentecost. The Spirit would come upon them. They would speak to the crowd. Jerusalem, part of Judaism. Each hearing the gospel in their own language. The power of God being evident. So it was a training. Kept them close to him, showing them things. There would be times that he thought that they were understanding, and there would be times that they did not understand. Going out and really do this commission that he was sent. So let's get caught up just a little bit on our questions. So Jesus grouped his apostles into teams of two. Why would that be advanced? Why would you think Jesus would want that to happen instead of splitting him up in just one, going even more places, but he would send them by two? A witness. I think that moral support, two courts are better than one. If I was going to go out, if I was going to do some work somewhere, I'd rather have Larry with me helping me do the work, get it done faster, sort of support each other, helping out each other. That's what we do. That's sort of our nature, that we would rather have someone with me if I'm going to go about and do something. So we see that a lot. We used to, and that's sort of the way that many times in campaigns years ago, that if you go outdoor, there'll always be two of you. And we understand the importance of that. So that was probably the reason for them to learn from each other. At the end of the day, they could sort of talk about things and say, well, how about let's try this tomorrow? Let's try this differently or something like that. So different reasons why. Passage that we call the limited commission, that's what we're reading here as far as Jesus sending out the disciples 2 by 2. The mission that we read in chapter 28, 18 through 20, what do we call that? Great Commission, because what does Jesus say? Go out into all the world. Now we're spreading to everyone. It didn't matter. It was going to be anybody. Jew, Gentile, Samaritan, Roman, Greek, whatever. That's what the rest of the New Testament is on. It has a question about what is the meaning of the phrase money belt. This is sort of an incidental question. In the dress that they had, it said that they had this sort of sash that they would put around them and sort of fold them up in that sash and tie it around them. People sometimes do the same thing. Have a hidden thing that they keep money in. They weren't supposed to take that anyway. So we've talked about the provisions that the apostles were taking on their journey. Very limited. Just what they needed. Make it no extra baggage. How did Jesus teach the importance of trusting in the Lord for the necessities of life? Find a family, find a home that receives you after you've taught. We've read through that. If they ask you to come in, typically back then they'd take care of you. Now, that is not things that we do today. Why? Cultures change. In that culture, especially, they were going to the Jewish people. They were very hospitable. They didn't have much. Homes were not much. Probably just big enough for their family. Yes. I think so. But I think we also, in times that we're living, the devil taking hold of the world, a lot of people after. And it's sad because we have those people that have a real need, and we're able to find those people sometimes. And there's also a lot of people just trying to take advantage of situations. And it's said that at this particular time, if there were different teachers and ones that would go about, that this was something that would happen there as well, that they would live off of attitude.
gain.
And what we need to do, and then this is the lesson that's taught here in this thing, question addresses, is that how much do we trust? How much do we trust the Lord taking care of us? Jesus spoke to this. He spoke to this with his disciples. It's hard for us because we're growing up or raised in the times where we can't rely on some other people. You got to do it yourself. It's called the D generation. It's sort of past several decades of it. So it's those types of things. In our lives, we have got to continually trust in the Lord. I know every person here, you've had instances in your life where God proved that. He proves that you should trust Him. Even though at the time it didn't seem so, but after we understood more clearly, we saw so, that it was God working with us during what they did. Let's talk about just a little bit as we close about a certain thing. What Jesus did to help His apostles to do this commission. First thing He did, very important, is organize. Organization is something that you go to. Spend all your time organizing it. Jesus' approach was very simple. He said, I'll divide you two of you go spread out in 6 groups. You're going to heal the sick, preach the gospel, the kingdom of God is at hand. Tell them what to instruct. Not going to burden yourself down with a lot of physical things. Rely on the Lord, trust in Him to provide that place for you. So, very simple. Tells them what to expect, what to look for. Tells them what kind of instruction that He's supposed to give. He's already said these people are like sheep without a shepherd. They're not getting the guidance they need. They're not getting nutrition that they need. Getting protection that they need. The kingdom of heaven cannot provide. And the message that you're giving them. Jesus had left them with a lot of examples this time that He was teaching His disciples. Now He wanted to see how well they were listening, how do those things. The thing that I think that we'll enter discussion with this morning is how do you get prepared for? We talked about this just a little bit this week. He let them know up front that everywhere you go, people are not going to listen. Not everyone is going to accept it. You know that. It tells us that few are those who find it. It's going to be few that follow that straight road and enter that narrow gate. There's going to be a lot of people who travel the wide road. Try to go find you. They don't want to follow that path. So there is going to be. We often face that. Try to out there. Let them see and read for themselves. That's the most powerful thing. I'm sure they understand. Understand themselves. The word says regarding salvation and how we are disciples. that there's many in the world who distort that in ways. And people ask, well, why do you have to be so narrow-minded? Why do you have to say that we've got to do what the Bible says? This thing's out of date. I mean, times change. People change. This is not relevant. And yet, God does not change. Richard brought this up in his devotional Wednesday night. God does not change. And the way that the Word has been preserved, we know that it has not changed. Even through all the different translations, we're still going back to the original Scriptures. One translation, not a paraphrase. You will find the same, pretty well the same meaning. So it is our measuring stick. Me, as I've grown up, and I'm almost 65 years old, 1 inch is still 1 inch. It hasn't changed. Pound is still 1. I think God's word is still right. Yet someone reads it themselves. Understand it. Jesus told us, and what he told his disciples through examples of the letters that they find the same. We've noticed that through the harmony of the gospel, yes, there are some differences, but it is a harmony. It's a supplement. It's not, Matthew is not trying to outdo the gospel account. They're not trying to outdo Mark. Each has their account. They all fit together. Thank you for your attention and your discussions.